So much of dating for me was figuring out who I was outside of everyone else's expectations for me. And I didn't realize how much of my personal habits and how I interact intimately had to do with my childhood experiences or things of that nature. Like, when I found out what anxious attachment style really was and what it was at its core, it made me realize that I've just only been abandoning myself, and that's why I freak out when someone else abandons me. And once I got to the bottom of that, life got a little bit easier. Let me tell you how. I had to reestablish my identity outside of what others thought I should be or what I should look like, what I should wear, and all of those things. I learned quickly that I don't really like certain things and certain ways I used to show up, and my nose turned at certain things that weren't necessarily something that I would turn my nose to. And that allowed me just to have compassion, not only for myself, but for other people. And really, one of the things that I did was I sat down and I did an inventory on all the things that I like and all the things that I don't like and all the things that impacted me. Just really did a self inventory over the course of my life and all the things that I did for myself or just to make someone else happy. Even down to my parents being happy about the career choice that I chose. I had to make sure that I started to do things for my own good, not for anyone else's. And when you're dealing with anxious attachment style, you realize quickly that you have this fear that someone will leave you because of something that you said or something that you did, or instead of accepting you as you are because of someone else, something that happened when you were younger that you really just it just never left you, and you've had this coping skill that used to keep you safe, but now it's keeping you stuck in this unbearable cycle. And once I realized that, it made it a lot easier for me to have an identity shift. So, where does it come from? I talked a little bit about how it was once keeping you safe, and now it's like being that sensitive to your environment can now alter your ability to interact with people in a healthy way. So, it comes from inconsistent caregiving, feeling like love had to be earned, and caregivers whose affection was unpredictable. And sometimes they were warm and sometimes they were cold, so you didn't get what you needed when you were a child. And that is what establishes your root chakra. So, one of the ways that I reground myself in moments where I'm feeling like off is just doing things that my inner child would want me to do when I feel unsafe and want me to do when I feel like anxious in that way. And then another thing I just have to realize, I'm a grown woman. No one can actually abandon me. That's really impossible to happen. Literally and figuratively speaking, I take care of myself. No one else pays my bills. No one else does anything else for me outside of me unless I ask for it. But even then, I'm my caretaker now. I'm responsible for me. So it really came down to mothering myself, remothering myself in a way that I take care of other people. I had to start taking care of myself. So a lot of times I watch people pour their heart out to certain people, and I'm just like, why don't you do that to care for yourself in the way that you're expecting others to care for you? And the ways that this show up, like I said, is that hyper vigilant to signs of disinterest when they're not paying you like the slightest bit of attention, or over communicating just to feel close, mistaking intimacy or intensity for intimacy. That's the big one. When someone's doing so much so soon, that's intense. It's not real. It's really a form of love bombing when someone initiates so much so soon. Feeling like you're too much or ashamed for expressing your needs because someone at one point in time made you feel like your needs were too much, or the bare minimum was not enough. The bare minimum was too much to ask for. And that's not real. That's not true. So you have to take a step back and really realize, where does this stem from? And all you can say is, you're not broken. You're just trying to protect your heart before it actually gets hurt. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the way that you protect your heart can be done in a better way besides trying to control the other person. And I think a lot of what anxious attachment does is you start being manipulative with your emotions and you start doing things in an expectation to receive something. Yes, we live in a world where we expect reciprocity, but you need to express the reciprocity part. And when someone doesn't show up to meet you where you are, you have to have the strength enough to leave instead of staying there and accepting that treatment. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when you're anxious attachment, you fear more of them leaving rather than you actually standing up and being there for yourself. So you end up ironically abandoning yourself, trying to be there or trying to receive love for someone else who's in the act of abandoning you, which can't happen because only you can abandon you at this point in time. You know what I mean? So all of this just like I've really been able to reframe my mindset around it and reframe myself from being a victim in certain situations. Like, yes, it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean he necessarily left me or he was necessarily not a great guy. We just weren't a good fit because he couldn't show up to meet me where I am. And that's okay. So another thing that really helps is just having a vetting process when it comes to guys, because a lot of guys will try to come in and woo you without, and they're faking it essentially. And everyone is in the beginning. I feel like everyone's on their best behavior in the beginning. But just that vetting process kind of allows you to have a way to protect yourself. And it's not to control outcomes, because your vetting process shouldn't be superficial. It should be mental notes that you have in your head about your expectation of a dude and how they should come in the beginning, period. That's like you draw the line type of thing. Another thing that helps is dating from overflow, not scarcity. So thinking that there's no one else out there for you, get that now, because you found this one, there's another one waiting. This next, here come one coming. You hear me? And then asking yourself like questions, checking in with yourself, asking yourself, is this person being available to me, or am I chasing? Or do I not feel good enough to them? What are the thoughts that are going on in your mind, and assessing those and answering them genuinely so that you don't come from a place of scarcity still. You want to feel whole when you're walking into these relationships, because it's important that you come as a whole person, not only for them, but for yourself, because you want to protect yourself. If you constantly walk around feeling like there's a part of you missing and you're searching for that in someone else, then they're not only going to feel pressured by that, but they'll also feel like, but no, not them. You'll also never get that, because that's not why we were placed here. We weren't placed here to complete each other. We were placed here to amplify everything that is in one another. So even the act of being in love with someone isn't actually falling in love with someone. It's someone gave you permission to feel love for the first time in yourself. That's what love is, something that radiates from you, and then you're able to do that because someone else projected that onto you, if that makes sense. I think society has just given us this Cinderella form of ideology of what love should look like, but we honestly have to get back to reality and realize that we're all people who have baggage in some form, and or we all have some negative aspect about us, but it's up to us to take responsibility for that. And that's why it's important to come whole. And when I say whole, I don't mean completely healed. I mean accepting all parts of yourself. There are no bad parts. You're good and you're bad, and you're ready to come with it, and you're ready to take responsibility for what you have and what has happened, and what negative aspects about you that you don't like. You don't play the blame game when it comes down to your emotions. You are really there to integrate rather than shame parts of yourself, and you're really there to do the same and hold compassion for the partner that you're with or the people that you're dating. So healing the anxious attachment style really isn't about becoming perfectly unattached or detached. It's really about being able to share yourself without losing yourself. You don't have to alter yourself to show someone love or care or compassion or empathy. You can do that by still being rooted in who you are. I hope this helps.